Hello, welcome back in. Today we have a very special show for you. That's right. First show of this year, and I thought we'd start with a bang. So I'm not going to do too much introduction and may waste too much of everybody's time. Everybody knows, if you're here, probably what's going on and who the lovely people with me today are. Of course, we have the wonderful, amazing Zez over in Estonia. And then
Hello, sir.
Thank you for coming, buddy. And then our amazing friend with the CRT love story of a lifetime, Mr. Shank Mods. How are you doing? How you doing, Shank?
Doing great, man. Good to have me.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, well, thanks for coming back. Yeah, and we're going to get into a lot of things here today, especially, talking about, I don't know, life and the lessons of life. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, we're going to talk about the most elusive large CRT on the planet. So we could just, I normally let Lewis take over on the amazing show host style stuff. So I'm going to let him get things going here with you, and I'll be in the background running show production and chiming in and adding my lovely stuff.
We've got the production back again. Love to see you, Steve. Love to see you, Shank. Hello to everyone in the chat here. I see a lot of familiar names. It has been a while since we've been doing this one here, so good to have you back. So we're talking to Shank today about the big CRT. If you've got the questions, this is going to be much more of a ask your questions in the chat. This is your chance to ask Shank all the questions, all the nerdy questions that you have about the video, about the adventure, about the CRT. This is your chance to do it in the chat today. So yeah, it's good to be back, guys. So Shank, buddy, so what's the recap since the end of the video? How's the set going? Any updates to give us?
Oh man. Okay, a lot of people. So I filmed. So it's most people know about the video. I did do a second video. And that one was over a year ago. The one where I'm going over it. I don't know if you guys saw it on the second channel, where I was going over it, talking about showing the insides, here's a bit how it works, here's the controls, here's how it compares to the American one. Did you guys see that one?
Yeah, actually, I was going to say I did, because I didn't even know about that channel, and then it showed more, your second channel, and then I started to watch the video, and I noticed how you had said you were working on the convergence stuff, so I figured that must have been some time ago.
Yeah,
when
it was
you actually
over a year
ago. Cool.
Yeah, it was well over a year ago. So, I have obviously cleaned up the dust because we wanted to take some of those high quality. My friend Marshall came down, and we set up a big tarp behind it and took some photos. And he came in with super this delicate car cleaners, car detailing stuff, and washed it down. So people were like, "Are you gonna dust it?" Some questions people had: does it run PAL? And I don't know. I haven't tested it, but probably not. Let me see. What other questions that people asked for it?
That's okay. I mean, that's being Mr. PAL representative ambassador to PAL territories over here in the corner. Well, I mean, does it run PAL? So composite. So first of all, remind us again. What are the inputs it's got?
Yeah. So. Every input except one is a 15 kilohertz input that is deinterlaced to 480p. So the big TV is fixed scan at 31 kilohertz. It's always scanning at 31 kilohertz. It does not do native 240p as far as I'm aware. So whatever you put in will be deinterlaced with a full frame buffer in 16.8 milliseconds to be 480p. It's because it has a freeze button, so you can freeze press it. So it has a frame buffer, so you can freeze what's on screen with that button. And it has, I believe, 3 composite and S video inputs and 1 RGB through JP21.
Okay.
And then additionally to those all run through the frame buffer. In addition to that, there's an extra BNC RGB-HV input that bypasses the frame buffer. So that is a direct 31 kilohertz input.
Okay, if you're sending in a 480p progressive signal already.
Exactly. So I can run 480p 60 or 960i 60. And
What
960, yeah.
Sorry.
I was going to say 960i on that thing looks amazing. It looks like just straight HD.
So that's a really sorry to jump in, but just to kind of talk a little bit more about this, because this was one of the things that was the most interesting to me, is we find these sets that are doing things to the composite video signal. And so like this one's literally taking that and putting everything through that frame buffer, aside from that like external bypassed BNC inputs, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, not BNC. That's bad. The HD input or whatever. The
it's BNC.
RGB.
It's
yeah.
RGB HV, RGB H3, RGB HV through BNC.
Right.
You can also do RGBS, but I mean, if you're running 31 kilohertz, you're probably running HV.
Yes. Okay. So then, so like, what does it do to? Wow, that must be crazy. If you send in like a composite video 240p signal, does it still even look the same? Like, or is it?
No, it doesn't look like 240p. It treats it like an HD CRT or like a LCD, where it's deinterlaces it into a 480p image.
Okay, that's pretty crazy for something in '89, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the board on that thing is nuts. It's just got all these frame buffer chips all over it, like custom VRAM or something.
Wow. Okay. Sorry. That's just I wanted to go in on that a little bit.
No, it's very interesting. I mean, I'm sure everybody wants to know to dig into.
Oh yeah, we're
nerdy details.
Yeah, these are the nerds. They all want the details. So
does that if you send 240p in? So first of all, I guess broadly, is that looking good when you send 240p in the way it sends it to 480p?
Not really. I didn't mess too much with the RGB input. The RGB 15 kilohertz input, because it obviously goes through the frame buffer. So I want to avoid that as much as possible. What I did was, whenever I run 240p stuff, I ran external scalers because they're faster and better. And while that stuff was incredibly impressive, top of the line, like if the circuitry of that, I was told by someone more knowledgeable than me, if the circuitry of that deinterlacer was taken out of it, it would be in rack mount equipment that was thousands of dollars at the time. Like, just that circuit alone would be thousands and thousands of dollars in a studio environment. And while it's great for the time, it's still bottlenecked by its time. So running an OSSC will give me like lower latency and better 240p performance because it's designed for 240p. It's not trying to deinterlace. So for the 240p image there, I was either running, for the 240p stuff, I was either running OSSC line doubled or OSSC line doubled with artificial scan lines, every other line.
Okay. So yeah, you're treating like the image a lot, where you can go through but you could go through them with a 480p signal, and you could add and do really anything with your signal to make scan lines almost like as thick as you want, right? I mean, pretty much.
Exactly. I would rather have, I would rather have the TV be 480p only than 240p only, because it's easy to simulate 240p on a 480p display, but 240p only means you're bottlenecked by 480i. So,
is there some what comes to my mind is, why did Sony design it that way, that it's native 480p set? Is it something about just inherently that size? Is it just a good thing to do at the time? Why would they make it 32 kilohertz?
So they marketed it as IDTV. So that's different than, so you have SDTV, that's 480i. We have EDTV, which is 480p. But there's also IDTV, not to be confused with EDTV. IDTV is improved definition television, as opposed to EDTV, which was enhanced definition.
Of course.
But someone asked, does it support 1080i? And the answer is no. But I tried it. It doesn't. It's 31 kilohertz fixed, not 33. But IDTV is 480i de-interlaced into 480p.
Mm-hmm.
So that has some advantages in that you don't get as much flicker like you would with a 480p source, with a direct 480i source. Especially, and I guess given how big it was, they didn't want that flicker to be an issue. It also, so they advertised it as it getting rid of a lot of the combing artifacts and lines and stuff that were undesirable. And I saw, read through it, does all this to get rid of the gaps between the images, and I'm like, no, you monsters.
So what they thought was, again, like a bad sign, they were trying to correct and maybe take a different approach to get it. They're like, oh, this is a problem now. We must tackle that. So,
yeah, but yeah, exactly. What we view today as like the charms and the appeal of CRTs, they viewed it you need to remember back in the day, this was all viewed as artifacts and stuff. So the charm that we love about them was not desirable back then. They just wanted it to be a picture. They wanted it, if you look at the images of the Sony Vegas, where they showed them on TVs, right? They made it seem like a window. Oh, it's like you're just looking through a window into something. So they didn't want the CRT aesthetic. They wanted it to look as clear as possible.
Well, I mean, let's take a step back. I mean, this is such an amazing video, and kudos to you, because like I didn't know it was coming till it hit. And then it was an interesting thing for me, because I could remember a lot of times where you would randomly ask me these crazy questions about how to get, anybody in Japan? And I'm like, what are you even talking about? You're crazy, man. So I'm kind of like,
I can't tell you why. You gotta just trust me.
I don't know what you're talking about. So I just kind of like did, and then stuff starts to unfold. But I guess let's take a little bit of a step back. How far, like, were you surprised at the response to the story? I mean, how did I feel like it feels like such a documentary almost too, there's so many great elements into that video. I don't know. I mean, could you speak to maybe that a little bit on it and just
the response was awesome. I was really worried because my plan from the beginning was to pull, I wanted to keep it on the down low. I wanted to blow everyone, not only blow everyone's mind with the video, but have a little fun with the collective, with the troll post before that, because it was all intended in good fun. Kind of the ultimate, what if the great white whale went to some rando who didn't know how to use it, running composite through a freaking Retron, So I wanted to keep it on the down low, and because I wanted it to be this big reveal, because that's how the internet works, is if something is old news, if it's a few days old, it's old news. And if I posted the video, if everyone saw it before the video, then it wouldn't be this big reveal. It wouldn't be exciting, and nobody would know what it was. So, like, it'd be like, oh yeah, I saw that a year and a half ago, and the time it takes me to make the video and get everything done. So, and if I tell too many people beforehand, then I risk it leaking, And for the people I do tell, it burns them up wanting to tell everyone. You know what I mean? So, and the people I do tell don't get to experience the chaos of what is happening. You know, it's nowhere, and then it's everywhere, and the reception has been really positive. I was worried some people would be a little butthurt by the post, getting because
what, getting trolled?
yeah, because again, it felt weird. I've never used a burner before. I don't do that. It felt so weird. I'm like, this is dishonest. Is this okay? Is everyone gonna be mad? But like almost every single person either reached out to me in messages or comments or stuff and said, yo, this was me. Thanks for including me. Like, this is so funny. Like,
yeah. Like anybody whose comments were in like the thread of stuff.
Yeah. I wanted to capture just the chaos.
You did such a great job at that. And my funniest, like, from my perspective, again, no idea this was going on. I'll get on the Facebook to just randomly see what's popping off on those groups, and all of a sudden there was somebody saying, somebody found the Sony PVM, blah, 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 join my Discord. And I'm like, what to talk about it? Who did it? Who was it? And I'm looking at this picture, and I didn't even interact, but I'm laughing. I'm like, this picture's so good. I'm like, is this even, I started saying, is this even the right TV? What are you talking about, to this guy? And then all of a sudden, I just sweep it under the rug, just thinking the guy's talking, and then your video comes out, and I mean, I was dying by the end of that, just laughing hysterically at how well it all went off, because like it's such a like uniquely almost perfect garbage picture that you can't like manipulate it and make it look any really different without it seeable.
I wanted to I spent a long time thinking about the satire. I had a friend who had a Retron 5, and I'm like, can I borrow it? And she's like, you can have it. And I'm like, no, I don't want to have it. I just want to borrow it. So she lent it to me, and I wanted to capture the satire of the first person. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to make it so unbelievable it's untrue. You know what I mean? Just set this thing. I'm not saying anything. All I'm saying is, hey, I'm buying. Guy, what's the biggest TV? Right? Okay, tell you what the biggest TV. Okay, I'll buy that one. I'm offering to buy it, right? And then just get mocked, get clowned on, which was the appropriate response for that, like clowning on someone saying, "Hey guys, I'm gonna find the Holy Grail." Just sure you are. Okay, buddy. And then just, I wanted to capture those. You see the screenshots of old 4chan posts where someone makes this outlandish claim, and then they OP delivers on it, and everyone's just freaking out, That was the energy I was trying to capture. And fortunately, the scene acted the way I expected, so it fit well, because if people like this, I wanted it to be unsure if it, so obviously bait, you know what I mean? That it's just funny.
It definitely was
harmless
funny.
Fun.
Oh yeah, harmless fun, right? So it's all good. That but besides just that, there were so many. It had been so long for me that I'd actually sat down and probably watched a YouTube video that long and actually sat through the whole thing when it was over 30 minutes, and not actually just hopped off and watched the rest at another time. So it's so much stuff that happens throughout. But it's I mean, just the whole idea of, right, there hasn't, since this has all come out, have you had any sniff whatsoever that someone else has reached out and said, I have one of those too, or something? There's
hundreds of people in my comments who all had this exact same TV as a kid.
Of course they did.
Okay.
My dad had
Any sort of proof? Any proof offered there?
No. I mean, there was probably only... It's incredible because there was probably only, like, less than 200 of these made, and there's at least 300 people who had them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, weirdly, none of them with Japanese names either. That's odd. How they all
No.
came to small town America.
well, to be fair, there was the U.S. models. We did have some from NASA showed up. I did have some people who said stuff about it that was in the user manual that wasn't documented online. People mentioned aspects of it, and I'm like, I believe you. Like some people like NASA. We had 3 of these at NASA, all this stuff, and then someone found some pictures from one of the NASA press conferences, some video from the NASA press conference where there's one right there. So we have a historical proof that one was used for something.
Yep, that sounds like that would make sense to me that NASA would have that. That really wouldn't surprise me too much. I would think that they would be one of the some of the first people approached from Sony as the only people who could pay for it when it's done. So, but yeah, the idea that so many of them, and now there's just, this very mail, to me, I feel like this could be the very last. I mean, there might be another one somewhere.
I really hope that it isn't.
I hope it isn't too, but there's also a chance that it is, but.
Yeah, I hope not. Lots of people have been, because people are like, oh, it'll, how would I put it? Some people are like, oh, you have the last one. I'm like, I don't want to have the last one. That's too risky. That's too much responsibility. You know what I mean? Like it's, yeah, it makes it. I would rather, man, if a warehouse full with 100 of these popped up, I would be thrilled.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Except for then, like, you'd have somebody like Heritage Auctions probably try to get involved on something like that because of this nuts. But it's, I can't tell people that if they want to get the closest thing that I know of is a 40. There's a bunch of Mitsubishi did make quite a few of those 40-inch standard definition CRTs in the 90s that are floating around the United States if you really want to have a 40-inch to go after.
The Mitsubishi. People really
Mitsubishi,
go after,
yes.
Yeah. People really go after hype up the 40 XBRs, and they're like not great. Like you're either with a 40 XBR, it's fixed 33 kilohertz, so so everything's going to be scaled. If you want no latency, you have to be, anything you send into it's going to have like 2 or so frames of lag, depending on the input. The 1080i is the only thing you're going to get without lag, and 1080i is always going to be letterboxed. So, and if you run it through a RetroTink running custom firmware, then you're going to blow a lot of money on it, and you have to do artificial scan lines. You're already cutting the brightness in half, and then you have to cut, from PWM. You're at like 30 to 40% of the original brightness, like light output when you're doing that. It's crazy. Yeah, if you want a big TV for retro gaming, don't go for the 40 XBR. Go for like an old Mitsubishi.
Definitely, yeah. I would. We've been talking about this some because I find it so interesting that you do have this. The TV we're talking about, this large Sony, does act in a way a lot like the newer or the later Sonys, where they're all set at the higher kilohertz, and they are all doing processing to the videos.
But it is a bit different. The HD Sonys today, they scale everything to 1080i, so it is a bit more sophisticated than it's more sophisticated because it would take either scaling it to 1080i or it's putting it within a 1080i frame. So it has to do one of those two things. So it's not just like line doubling and deinterlacing with active deinterlacing kind of thing.
Okay.
So
Shank, I think I wanted to understand a little bit more about the original motivations of the Japanese gentleman who bought it. So to start from the beginning again, so he bought it new. Did I understand correctly?
His dad, yes, his dad.
Sorry, yeah, the original dude, yeah.
From what I can tell, his dad bought it new from a Sony store.
Right. And how much did it cost back then in whatever or do you know that from? Or
I
what
do not know that information. The owner didn't say how much the owner did not say how much his dad paid for it, but I presume it was I don't know. It could have been full retail price. It could have been, oh, hey, this is a display model. Here's a discount. It could have been, oh, here's a buddy discount. I don't know, because the mythos around this TV is crazy. Some are like they were never sold it for MSRP. Some were like they were never actually sold. Like it's
okay. And do we know MSRP?
MSRP for the American model was $40,000 US, and then the Japanese model was less expensive than the American model.
Okay.
For some reason, even though it was like electrically the same, and the only difference was like a button was on the front instead of the back, and they replaced the JP21 with another set of BNC, and that's really it. But it was some price in yen that was a lot less.
And so I'm just trying to just get some numbers here, because I'm trying to build up this picture of how much this dude actually spent on this TV. Because I know you said his business was doing well, and I'm just so fascinated that even when you've got a bunch of money to drop, like how much it is. So anyway, what was the year? Pardon me. What approximate year are we talking?
89.
89. So 1989.
Well, I mean, is somebody's saying in here that they think it was between 17 to 19,000.
Yeah. Oh, that's Andy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that's Andy. Yeah. So that is but that would have been, well, if we're thinking about it too, it's all kind of come to fate on this specific one, because it was bought again by a business at the time. Business. It's not just going to someone's house. So that's probably part of the reason it was still saved, thankfully. But
yeah.
So let's say, ChatGPT, if you say 20 grand back in let's say 20 grand, I don't know, whatever, in 1989, ChatGPT tells me that is the equivalent today is 50 grand.
Yeah, about 50 grand.
So
that was dealer price. If you can see what he's saying, 21 grand was like dealer price. But I don't know what it was because it was in yen. Because it's complicated, because you have to do inflation cost and translation cost.
Right.
So that's why I just use the American model pricing, because it's just so we only have to do one conversion. Yeah.
Because you don't know the price of yen back then compared to the dollar back in 1989. The yen, that correlation could have been further or closer.
And we can look that up, but I mean, again, all these translations are going to be approximate, and so you have two degrees of abstraction. So even if
we're talking about it cost 35, 40, 50, 60 grand,
20 to 40,000. Let's just call it
20 to 40. Even in 20 to this dude dropped more than $20,000 worth of money on an AV system for his entryway, that he enjoyed
which is like 50K. Yeah.
Yeah, that he's 50K. So he dropped 50K today. Now, I guess there are dudes out there right now who drop 50K on their home theater system. I'm living in poor Eastern Europe, right? So I'm like, that seems like an amazing, the money to retire on. I don't know. Maybe there are different stratas of society, and that this dude built his business up that 50K didn't seem outrageous.
Well, it was also the Japanese bubble. Remember, there was a huge bubble back then. Like Japan.
Talk about this bubble a little bit more to give some context here.
I'm probably not the most qualified person.
Well, just from whatever
the first one we got.
A little bit. There's nothing.
I'll touch on it and take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is sort of what I've been able to gather. Japan was in a big economic bubble. They were economy go burr, and then for a while. Everything was crazy. Japan was making all these crazy, extreme, over the top products. People buying expensive stuff, and then economy stopped going burr, and yeah.
Okay, so that's something in the air, the culture at that time. That was the money was cheap, quote unquote. Because like when you hear that NASA bought TVs, you're like, yeah, I get it. I appreciate why NASA dropped 50 grand on 3 TVs, right? But when a factory outside of, Osaka, was it? Was it outside of Osaka? Sorry.
Yeah, it was in Osaka.
Right. When a factory outside of Osaka drops this, you're a bit like, okay, that's just fascinating to get insight into the mind of this dude.
Yeah.
So that's yeah. I mean, it was it was a restaurant, right? Or was this?
Yeah, it was in the restaurant in the second floor. Yeah, there's a room on the second floor. They carried it up the stairs.
Sheesh. Yeah, so that's another reason it didn't go anywhere for a long time.
For a long time, babe.
Yep. Awesome.
Oh look, we got a visitor back there.
Oh, hello.
Hey, cat.
You let your animals in. Mine was acting too crazy. I had to take them out.
Same. She's a good cat. She's just hanging out. She was in the video. She was a paid actress.
That's cute.
Look at this. Look at this. She's a scarf.
So what, like, what? I mean, what else? What's the fate of, like? Do you know what you? I mean, are you trying to make this TV like part of your setup? Is it not involved in the wall of towels that you had going?
No.
Are you open to offers?
So I have okay. So I see 3 timelines where this goes, right? I see 3 timelines. One is it stays with me. I don't have any intent to sell. My plan is to not sell it. But I do want to allow other people to come by and look at it and make content. But it's tricky because I'd like to be able to take it to conventions, but that's also risky and stuff like that. The transport and stuff like that. So do I? It's a balance of I want as many people to see it as possible, but I also don't want to dox myself and like say, hey, I have this one of a kind artifact. Here's my address, and invite randos over to my house. So
right.
It's tricky. And moving it is, I want to put it on wheels so it can be moved easier, but again, in a bumpy truck, it's can rattle things loose. So there's that. So I would like to keep it. I don't plan to sell it. That's kind of the most likely scenario. Another one is I could see myself it winding up in a museum. Like that could be something. And while I don't intend to sell it, I can't promise I won't, because like if some eccentric billionaire comes along and is like, hey, here's $1 billion, I'm like, it's a cool TV, but like $1 billion is $1 billion. You know what I mean? Like if someone makes me an offer I can't refuse, you know, everyone has a price. So that's the 3 things I could see it going.
If you wanted to donate to a museum, I believe Steve's opening a museum in his lounge room.
Yeah,
That's
right.
gonna be the museum if you want.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
It's a private museum, but you're willing if you're gonna donate it, they'll gladly accept your donation.
Yeah, so I think it's really cool. It's definitely a unique experience. Like it's like seeing a CRT that's that big is like, so you've seen similar with the Mitsubishis. It's weird. It's weird seeing a CRT image that big.
Well, I'll be honest with you. In my shop right now, somebody's dropped off a Mitsubishi like XC, and it's a 37-inch.
3715.
Yeah, yeah, it's something like that. I can't.
Yeah, like a Mega View.
Yeah, it's old. It's like in metal housed and like gigantic.
Is the chassis like white?
I haven't opened it yet. It's still just sitting on.
No, I mean the metal. The metal.
Yeah. It's off white.
Yeah.
So, but that one, And that one looks just gigantic. I can't imagine this thing being like, what is it, 10 inches bigger than that one, or 8?
Yeah. Hold on. Is that one a 33 or a 37? 30...
Well, it's marked as 37. I haven't actually measured
so
the
it's
size.
a 35 visible.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Give me a second. I will upload an image here for you guys. You ever use Display Wars?
Mm-mm.
Shout out to the website displaywars.com. I've been using them for years.
I've never heard of that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Here, I'll send you a link here. Check this out. And if you click that, you can see a visual you can visually compare different
Okay,
sizes.
where did you send it? In the chat at the
Yes.
Here, let me see.
I'm gonna try to post it in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, I'll open it, or I'll share it if it won't. Oh, there you go. Over us. So
yeah, you can share it with the class.
Can everybody see it on the screen? Probably overhead of everybody. I think I just put it on top. Let me
look at that.
Share
That's
the
how much
link.
big. It's like from
Oops.
me and the guys who came down to work on it. When I said to them was like, first I showed them, because my 37-inch NEC is at my place, right?
Yeah.
My XP37 Plus is in my garage, and then the big unit is in my parents' garage. So we went to my garage and we looked at the 37. They're like, "Wow, this is huge," and all this stuff. And I'm like, "By the end of this weekend, this is gonna seem tiny." And they're like, "No way, dude, no way." And then we spent like a few days working on the big boy, and then we came back and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's so cute." It warps your perspective. Like you walk into the room and you're just like, "Oh my gosh, it's so big." Like,
do you have any information, or have you done any tests on how much power it draws?
I haven't, but people meme about CRTs drawing so much power, but it really doesn't draw that much.
It's not.
Like,
that's always been such a large misconception. It's always been something I've wanted to do. I've actually got like a power monitor and compare it between, but I've just never spent the time to actually do it, but to actually compare it, because you can plug that in. It says on the back what like the max is usually in the power rating.
Yeah, but the max is always like, okay, that's like while it's degaussing with like a huge overhead, like so that's not like an accurate figure. Like,
well, or like the highest, the only way I can get them to go as high as possible is basically put an all white screen on.
Yeah, even still, like, it's going to draw even more. It won't draw close to that. The most it's going to draw is when it degausses. When you first turn it on, because it's almost shorting your AC lines together.
Right, yeah.
But it's just for a brief moment, you know?
Yep.
So.
Well, all right, yeah. Well, hey, everybody in the chat, thanks. If there's any, like, things that we didn't cover, make sure you drop it down there, and we'll be glad to cover it. If you got any questions about it specifically. So you also indicated that in that video, has there been any change from anybody at Sony on their perspective to talk to you anymore about it?
I can't
Officially?
say too much on it. I'll touch on it, but some gears might be turning, hopefully, and I'm optimistic.
Okay.
But I can't say too much yet.
Okay. Well, that's fine. That's actually better than just, hey, the door's closed. I don't know. Forget it.
It's looking. It is not completely cold. What I can say.
Okay. And what would be the like advantage of that, or what's good maybe to talk to some original person, or get some specs, or get some history? What would you like to get out of that interaction?
Oh my gosh! Imagine if you could talk to the person that made a CRT you think is cool, like any CRT, like one of the lead designers of a Sony, like one of Sony's lead Trinitron engineers, like during the late 80s to the 90s.
Sure.
Imagine what questions would you not ask them? Like you like just walk and be like, "Hello, God, you have all the answers. What do you start with?" You know what I mean? Where do you even begin to ask? Like,
Yeah, even just the idea of what it was like at the time, because during that time period is when the Trinitron was deep into the middle of its patent. So
Yeah.
at the same time, you've got constant, probably secrecy around this person's job, where they're like, a lot of things cannot be revealed about even what they're doing.
Yeah, and people are just and I could tell he wanted to talk to me about it, but he couldn't. Like
Right.
the excitement, these engineers, imagine someone to say, like, coming to you and saying, "Hey, that stuff you slaved over and were so proud of, like 2 to 3 decades ago, people still think is cool, and still it's all these years later, people still care about it." I mean, imagine you thought it was obsolete tech, all this stuff you poured into, and then it just all of a sudden, boom, it's all obsolete, it's gone. We're moving on to new stuff. Imagine that. That's got to be just amazing.
Yeah, plus there's like the whole idea that this was such a I'm sure massive project for that person, and then it winds up being something that's not obviously a product widely adopted if they're only going to make 200 of them, and it's more of like, can it be done?
This guy I talked to did not design this one. He designed lots of other ones. I can't say which ones, but he designed some popular models. Some very, very popular and desirable models in the scene. So
okay,
it was but he knew the guy that designed this one, and he knew other engineers, and it sounded like they were excited. So
they were trying to get some yes, they were like, yes, people love what we did.
Yeah.
So, kind of like surprised them.
But like, imagine if you could here, I'll mention this because it wasn't one of these. Imagine if you could sit down with the guy who imagine if you could talk with the engineer of the FW900, right? Because I'll use that example because of that. Like, hearing about what all went into it and the advanced stuff, and the like, oh yeah, here's what we were doing, here's what we were thinking, like, here's what, why is this a limit here? Why isn't it a limit here? What does it take to do all this stuff? I feel like when we're going through this stuff, I feel like a monkey using alien technology from the future. You know what I mean? We don't fully understand it. We can't fully replicate it. We're just trying to wrap our head around the most basic physics of it all.
I think that's a very good point, that a lot of our understanding and concepts of the CRT and like working through it's almost like we're reverse engineering everything from like an outside perspective of our ideas, instead of like these guys had decades of defined problems they were trying to get around, things they had tried, what they knew and this was all the cutting edge for them at the time. And like you said, it's a perfect analogy, just going back and trying to figure it out. It is like looking at something so futuristic that we can't really it's hard to wrap your head around.
Any question, imagine, it's the kind of thing where you have a person that can answer any question you could possibly have.
Yeah.
Like, imagine like, some of us, we think we're experts, but like these people like know more than we could ever know. And then we could learn, just, there's so much knowledge to be had, and I want to learn about it all before it's lost to time. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lost art.
Okay, there are some other questions here. Is there a downloadable copy of the service manual for that, or is it just the one that you found?
There's not a public one, and I wish there was. I want to archive mine, but it's more complicated than that because there are lots of fold-out pages.
Okay,
so it's not as simple as just, oh yeah, take it to freaking Kinko's and have them scan it for you. You know what I mean? I want there to be a high quality upload of this because the schematics are fascinating. But I did some dimensions here. It's like 30 by 30 tall, and then the wide is like more than that. They're just huge.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
an industrial scanner or something like that.
And the thing is, if I upload just a crappy one, then that'll circulate the internet, and then just and it'll bury. If I do eventually go back and get the nicer one, so it's tricky. I'm talking with people who have access to some larger format scanners. If I can do it in either 1 to 2 scans rather than a bunch of them and chop them together, because you've seen the crappy scans of service manuals before. Right, Steve? You've seen ones that are just like
they're almost
unreadable.
It does suck because it would be nice if you could get I don't even know how you could do it, and I'm sure there is a way, but it would be nice to have the service manual where you could just open the PDF and have the whole document be there instead of 25 pages chopped up, or it's like you don't know where you're trying to look for the other section that ends over here, and you're like trying to reference these 2 pages in a manual that are 20 pages apart.
Here, I'll be right back.
It's not.
Let me go grab it.
Yeah,
I want to show you guys what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, go for it.
He's gonna bring it in. What have we got? A few people there. SP95. We talked a little bit about the power. Like, not too much. Actually, not too bad. Not crazy on power. And we spoke about CRTs broadly. Are not actually drawing.
I was going to say, one of the other things we haven't brought up yet, Lewis, is the overlay on the glass. This has a protective layer, and we could talk with Shank about that in a second when he gets back after we look at this.
There was one about movies. I want to know if he's just watched some movies, noticed anything. What would be the best format if he could watch? I don't know, to take a DVD at 480p and send that in. Would that be the best way to? Would it be an amazing DVD machine?
Mm-hmm.
Possibly. So what would be his preferred way to watch movies?
Yeah, this SP95 said we with the service manuals working on Google Maps. That would be the nice style. Zoom in.
Okay. So here's what we're talking about, right? So we have this here.
Yes.
This folds up.
Dang.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is the kind of stuff we're dealing with. And it's not just one of these. This is just the frame buffer circuitry.
That's just one. Yeah, that's not the whole. That's not like the whole.
This is the RAM for the frame buffer. And there's more on the back. So it's nuts. Absolutely nuts. So I want to document it. It's like, okay, we'll mail it to someone who does. Okay, I mail it. What if they just don't scan it and ghost me, right?
Right.
What if it gets lost in transit?
Exactly.
What if
you've got to actually really go there and scan
it's difficult. It's complicated. There's stuff to it. This
a
one
historical document. That's an important document. We can't just let it to the whims of the postal system.
Here's one I can scan myself though, and I plan to. It's glossy, so it's a little difficult. This is the instruction manual.
Okay.
For it.
Okay.
So
it's color.
Cool. Yeah.
I mean, that's nice. So did the owner have that with the TV still?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very cool. So that one's fun. I had that, and he gave me. There was a sign. It was like a plastic sign that said Sony on it too. So that was fun. So lots of So I've got lots of documents to scan. I've got tons of people reaching out to help. It's just logistics.
Yeah.
Got to make it happen.
We had a question here in the chat about movies. So I guess, have you watched any movies, and what would be your preferred way? A DVD at 240p or something else? What would be what do you think is the best way to watch movies on this screen?
Okay. I have not watched any movies. I haven't watched what's it called? I did watch because this thing can run 960i. So the best way to watch movies on this would for sure be running something in high definition and then running it at 960i. Because 960i just looks straight HD on this. It looks absolutely amazing. I watched like Michael Jackson's Thriller on it, like just the music video, and that looks really good. I couldn't include any like. I didn't focus too much on movies and TV shows because the mighty hand of the copyright strike would smite me down. So so I focused on games. But no, I tend to not really watch movies on 4x3 CRTs because pan and scan and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like you're missing out on so much of it. So
help me out with the technical. So 960i, that's running in interlaced mode. So is there any flicker or artifacting, or do you see any interlaced signs?
Okay. Have you used a 1080i CRT before?
No, I haven't actually. I'm a bit
okay. Interlaced is gets a bad rep. So when people think of interlaced, they think of 480i on a Sony Vega, where it's like this, and you just see the black lines everywhere, and it's just brutal. Whereas it's but once you start to get beyond the resolvability of the CRT, like as you increase the resolution, two things happen. First one is that instead of jumping this much, it jumps this much. You know what I mean? So it's because the lines there's more lines, the amount it's jumping is smaller, right? Gotcha. It appears to be jumping is smaller. And if you go beyond the resolvability of the CRT, then you don't see the jumping. If that makes sense.
I think I get you. Because you got so many lines packed in. Okay, that makes sense. The opposite would be, let's say we had 5 massive lines. You would definitely see, whatever, right? If you had 10 lines on a full screen, you would just see that. So the opposite is true. If you've got tiny, tiny lines, we don't really see the movement of the interlace.
I am very much a 480p for life, like 480p over 480i, all this stuff. But 480p better than 480i, 240p over 480i for most things, but 960i, if you have the ability to try it, is unreal. It looks like GameCube game, some GameCube games through Swiss can output it. It's just like double the resolution for free, vertical resolution for free. It's stupid. So you're running 1280 by 960. So you have the combination that it's higher line count, so it doesn't look, so the distance isn't as much. You have the it's not fully able to resolve the full 960 vertical, so there's some overlap there. And you also have the high persistence, so that CRT has really, really, really long persistence. Like you turn the TV off. If you close your eyes, turn the TV off, and then open your eyes, you can see what was on the screen for several seconds, faintly, like in a dark room. So in Metroid Prime, when it's panning past and there's the stars, they look like streaks, like it leaves these lines behind it. So the persistence is very long, and I think the deinterlacing circuit and the high persistence was a design choice to mitigate flicker. So 960i on this, especially with that long persistence, it just looks progressive. It looks like 960p. The only time you can see it's interlaced is when you have thin horizontal lines that you can see that's a unavoidable thing. But except for those specific things, it just looks like 1280 by 960 progressive.
Tremendous.
Since it's running at that higher rate, is it quieter? I mean, you don't have to hear the 15 kilohertz whine.
No 15 kilohertz whine, because the limits of human hearing is 20 kilohertz. So just like any VGA CRT or HD CRT, you do not hear. There is no deflection screech to be heard.
Oh, that's nice. All right, we keep getting asked, and let's talk about this overlay. Can we talk about that overlay on the TV?
Glass overlay.
Oh,
the protective cataract.
Yeah, the cataracts, the either delamination or cataracts or whatever. Yeah. Man, if people got opinions about that. So lots of people saying you need to fix this and make it the best it can be, and then other people like, this is totally easy, it's totally fixable, and some people like, don't you dare even test it or try it, like, that's a one of a kind thing. So, it's, I don't know. It is worse than I thought, because when I took the higher quality photos with lots of light, there is some discoloration I can see, and it's likely muting the colors a little bit. It's probably contributing to the colors looking slightly muted because it's not fully clear. It's got a slight green, greenish yellowish tinge, very slight, underneath, in addition to the delamination. So,
are you like, it's definitely glass?
Oh, like, yeah, there's glass. It's glass on the front.
Yeah.
And then behind it is, because most CRTs had like safety glass like built onto it. And this one, it was whatever like resin was used in between. Has either like decayed or has bubbles or something.
Right.
But when you're using it, you don't notice it. Like, it's just the like lines on the top and bottom, they're it's only really noticeable when you have like when it's off and you have like bright lights on it. But like when it's shining there, it's almost invisible.
Yeah, that wouldn't, if you can't see it on 40, if it doesn't drive you nuts or something, if it's not like in the middle of the screen and you can't see. I know people always talk about Shango's, about the only person I know that's been doing those for a while.
Yeah, if Shango was interested, it's a lot to ask, but if he's interested, I'm open to it. It's the kind of thing where if there's some person that's really an expert and is really confident and has done all this and stuff, I'm not going to do this on my own. I'm not going to, if there's someone who really knows their stuff, who is confident, I'm open to making it happen.
Yeah, like I personally, I wouldn't. I mean, I would not even try it. Like, I would have to do it on probably 2 or 3 times. Buy something else to figure out. Even if the process is something that you're paying for the experience, kind of there, and that's the only guy I know that really does it normally.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing I would not do it on. It's my plan. My default answer is no, but it's not like a hard 100% no, where if the right person came along and was willing to basically do it and all this stuff, I'd be open to it. But it's not the kind of thing where I'm going to reach out to a lot of these experts. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say, hey, can you do this for me? And no, that's awful. That's such a nightmare to do. And it's risky, and so I'm leaving it. It's the kind of thing, I'm not planning on it, but the door isn't completely closed to it.
Yeah, I think that's a good perspective to have on it. I mean,
it's like a historical piece of art that has degraded over the years and is valuable and irreplaceable. And then, like, you see that meme of like whatever the old painting and someone's tried to touch it. Right, exactly. It'd be something like that. Like, that's a one of a kind to work on.
Yeah.
Now, can you get like with that? Is it possible to even get the bezel off that thing without dismantling it like a 2030, or is it actually? Think you can take it off without?
I don't know.
I don't know. You know how those are.
Documents.
Yeah.
Please hold.
Yeah.
Let's see. I might be able to find it out. There's a whole blowy up. Yeah, here it is. Here's what it looks like.
Oh, so it does possibly just come right off if you unscrew it in there.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the hard thing, right? Is it one of those things like the 20 or the M series where you have to take the whole thing apart to get the or there's other CRTs you have to take the whole thing apart to get the bezel off?
Hey, I have a dumb CRT question.
Hit me
Great.
with it.
We talked a little bit about power.
Yeah.
And, not a bit more power, not much power. CRTs don't draw more power than people think they're these monsters. If, let's say Steve opened this up and Steve zapped himself with this big TV, would it give you more zap than a smaller TV or same zap?
Probably more zap. Like,
Which kind of a zap are we talking about here? I mean, yes, if the tube has not discharged, that larger tube would have more energy in itself to discharge than like a tinier tube. Yes.
Yeah. I've heard people say like this is this is a like the high voltage it was like the DC transformer block. People joked that touch this block to meet God,
Yeah, right. I mean, isn't that the reason we're all using AC current? Because somebody like shocked an elephant on like 100 years ago? Like,
no,
somebody zapped an elephant to prove how dangerous DC power was, and the elephant dropped dead in this like TV show, and then they said, all right, we're going with AC in America. It's like 100 years ago.
Yeah, you're thinking of the Tesla.
Yeah, something.
Tesla Edison thing. That's a version of that story.
That's the extremely like I'm gonna get a D on my paper Cliff Notes version.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, even the mains. I think the most dangerous part would be like touching the massive like DC rectifying capacitors, where like that's going to be 160 volts with like enough capacitance to kill you, resuscitate you, and then kill you again. But the high voltage is probably higher voltage because more size, and there's 2 flybacks because like why not? There's 2 flybacks and 3 damper wires because.
Dude, now what about like other? I know you talked some about the maintenance and repairs you had to get done to it. Has there like been since then? Have you done anything else? Had to do anything else like for maintenance that has really been bit different or
No, that's the main one. I don't feel confident. It's so big you can't work on it solo.
Right.
Because you need like we have these giant mirrors. You need to be able to be behind it and use a giant mirror to see it. Like we had like FaceTiming there to be able to see it. And you need like multiple people, like one person to be looking at the one corner and one person to be looking at the other corner, and like one person to just like it takes a team to like work on this because it's just so big. So I haven't done much since people have left because I've dialed in what I can, but it's also I'm not confident enough in my abilities to work on it solo that I really want more assistance and supervision to work on it because it's so like one of a kind. You know what I mean? My other ones, sure, they're not as important.
Great.
Someone else asked as well about there's a story around that the dude who got you the service manual almost blew the story, almost gave it away.
Yeah, he almost did on accident. Who's saying that?
Accident on accident. Someone, I don't know where it was in the chat earlier on. Yeah, accident didn't mean that this dude was.
Yeah. He wasn't. There was no malice intended. I sent him an email. I was like, "Hey, do you have this thing? Do you have this thing?" And he replied, and he posted to a group, and he was like, he was super cool, super nice dude, very friendly. He posted to a group like, "Oh, hey, hey guys, I found the service manual. Someone reached out and said they have it, and that's about it." You know what I mean? That was like, but yeah, I mean, everyone says they have a thing, so I wasn't too worried about that, blowing that up.
It's so hilarious. This whole thing has been so funny because before this, it was all just this one picture that's been used for the thumbnail, and that's it. And then now to just blow the lid off, and then the other picture, that Durf sends you from, hey, maybe this is it, from a travel blog.
Yeah. So people keep posting the same image everywhere, and what I did was, I really tried to do this right, and that's part of why it took time. Was I reached out to some of the people, anyone who was like, there were a few people that were like making folders of all the documentation and research on the 4300, because I knew with how just awful like Googling stuff has gotten, that once I drop this video, it's going to be all over all the news articles and all this stuff, and I'm just going to destroy the SEO for this, and every single link you'll find is just going to be circular regurgitation of people reporting on my video, So I had those people like archive and gather up as much information as they could about before that. So that was something else that like people in the scene were really cool about and documented. Durf had the wiki page ready to go. So as soon as I posted the video, just boom, it's all here. Like we had to update, like we were looking at the page, like there was, we had to not update it to not cause any suspicion. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Well, I can tell you something really interesting. There's like my wife, she works at a university here. Okay. And talking about the reach of this video, there was a guy in her office who's like, hey, your husband works on CRT things. Did he see this video? And I was like laughing with her. I was like, yeah, tell him I'm friends with him. And he's like, oh, sure. And I was like, tell him he can watch Tuesday at noon and we'll be talking about it with him. But so it was funny to me to see that people even in her office were, oh, check it out, so it got beyond just the regular normal reach of,
I got so many comments like I hate these, I hated those old tube TVs, but man, was this a good video. Man, did I enjoy this story. Like what people care about, people want to hear a story and people excited about the story that they're excited about, And it's the kind of thing where it's about the story more than the TV. Like if it was the story, it was the people. It was, like Abibi and Chihiro and Mr. Takahashi and the restaurant owner. There's people. It was a good heartfelt story, you know what I mean? It was really, really positive, really so that's what people, if I wanted, I couldn't make this work by just talking about the technical details and just an overview. That wouldn't make financial sense. It just all was too perfect of a story, and it all just lined up. I got so lucky.
But you knew this, the more this was going. At what point when you were, because you're documenting this too, right? And then you're like, at any moment, you're like, this whole thing could just kind of fall apart, I'd imagine, and not come up to fruition. So at the same time, you're spending a lot of time thinking about putting effort into, right, and then to say, wow, at any moment, this whole thing could just fall apart.
Yeah,
and not be worth it.
It was the kind of thing where I had to, if I was rolling it, my girlfriend plays D&D, and the way we put it is, I was rolling a D20, and if I got a 19, anytime I was screwed. You know what I mean? I just kept rolling straight 20s, and I just, you know what I mean? I got really, really lucky, and if one piece didn't fall into place, I couldn't have made this happen.
Was there some stage in the process, like where you thought, like, I'm gonna have to go to Japan, or was that never ever an option? Would you let it go if you couldn't work it out?
So, going to Japan was something we considered, but I looked at this and I, despite the fact that a lot of people think because I have like 400,000 YouTube subscribers that I have unlimited money, and I'm like, that's not how it works. Yeah, for my one video a year. So I had to make the most of the resources I had. And remember, this was like 2021, 2022. So Japan was still like tight on COVID stuff. Like Japan travel was really tricky. In like 2022. So it was, if I had, I had a limited budget to work with, because I didn't go into too much detail on the timeline, because the sponsor, I did not acquire the sponsor before I did that. I fronted the money myself for this stuff. And then the sponsor was able to pay for it and make it all happen, because I was confident I could get a sponsor down the road. So without the sponsor, it could not happen, but the sponsor did not give you the money. You get what I mean? It was kind of like a,
well, yeah, like you can't go and tell a sponsor, hey, I'm working on a project that'll be done in like 3 years or something.
Yeah, in like 2 years.
You pay me now, and then like in 3 years, I'll deliver you the best product.
And there wasn't time.
Yeah.
There wasn't time. I had to get the money like this. Someone asks, what about spare parts for repairs? There's basically, it depends. Most parts on CRTs, you can still get replacements, but there's certain stuff that's like unique unobtainium. There was a TV that popped up, the 29-inch version of this TV, and I was trying to buy it so I could have it as spare parts, because it uses the same deinterlacing circuitry and all this stuff. One of those 29-inch ID TVs, and the guy agreed to sell it to me, and my friend was going to go pick it up, and then he ghosted me and then marked it as sold. Ghosted us and marked it as sold. So that's a bummer. But anyway, back to, so I thought I could go to Japan, but what use could I be, right? I don't speak the language. I wouldn't know how to get there. I wouldn't know when I would need to be there, right? I wouldn't I wouldn't know how long to be there. I wouldn't know, and I would burn all the money. You know what I mean? I don't know how much this is going to cost to transport, and I need to make sure I have the money available to do it. So the smartest way to go about it, while it would have been more interesting, made maybe a more interesting story if I was there on Japan with a camera holding all this stuff, I couldn't contribute. I certainly, I'm not going to contribute muscle. Look at me. As unfortunate as it was, I knew my role was here. There was nothing I could do. I had to be smart about it. And with the money and time I had, and the smart play was to just be command center and trust the people on the ground and make sure I have the ability to get them whatever funds they needed to make it happen.
Right on. Who hooked you up with those movers in Japan? Sorry, I know I'm missing all details.
A BB had the connection, and he knew someone named Chihiro, and Chihiro was worked in that industry, had connections in that industry. They pulled a lot of strings. They worked very hard. I cannot emphasize. And I didn't dive into details of how much work it was for Chihiro and Mr. Takahashi and how much they put neck on the line, because it didn't flow for the video, and they didn't want to be. That's why I used emojis for them, because they're kind of private individuals. A BB's more of a public individual, so but Chihiro and Mr. Takahashi put in just as much, if not more, work than a BB did to make this happen. Like, they really put their necks out on the line, and they were absolute heroes on this.
So I guess then it raises their motivation. Like, they're cool guys. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to poke through, but it's like, did they identify something about this? They connect with it, or was it are they just honorable Japanese people? Was it a job for them? What were some of their motivations for participating?
I don't know specifically. I would guess a BB was able to accurately convey the importance of this. He saw our excitement for this and realized that it wasn't just, oh, this weird American dude just wants an old TV. They realized this is kind of a big deal. Like, they saw how we were like freaking out about this, and I think they were able to. A BB was able to communicate the importance of this to these people, and part of why I can't get into some of the details is because they had to pull a lot of strings and exceptions and stuff for, you know what I mean? They're a B2B company. And so, and it was risky. It was lots of stuff. And I air freighted it. They were like, do you want to spend this much for shipping through ship or more through air freight? Air freight's less risky. And I'm like, spend it. Like, keep it safe. Like,
so it's back on these. Did you get an opportunity? Like, do you know if they've been able to watch the video? I'm sure DB has, but I mean, the other people who helped out, and did you get any feedback from them, or do you have any idea about that?
I haven't gotten too much. I've asked. The only person I've personally been in contact with was a BB. He was my connection to all the others. I hope they have. I like to think they've seen it. I hope they enjoyed it. I hope they like their representation in it. You know, I wanted to make everyone involved look good and give them praise while keeping their personal, while being conscientious about their personal lives. It's a balance. And I didn't want to bug them too much because they've already done so much for me. So just saying, hey, watch my video, you know what I mean? It was, hey, a BB, I knew he would tell them. Yeah. And, I haven't really, since I didn't talk to them personally, all I can do is say thanks and try to give credit.
So that's very cool. Yeah, I just was kind of wondering, because you are right. It's amazing so much of this was pulled off between basically surrogates, almost. That
yes.
didn't. I mean, a lot of them didn't know each other, and the funny thing is, who knows if you would have gone over there to yourself, something could have screwed up. I mean,
yeah, I wouldn't have been able.
I'm not trying to say that, but you could have gone over there.
No, they did a better job than I would have done.
Maybe you going over there would have done something that would have screwed it up. So good on you for realizing the whole situation and doing it the right way.
They were professionals and did it better than I could have. Like, for sure. It was me not going was the right call. I would have loved to have been there. It would have been awesome. I could have gotten some really cool footage. It would have made for a story, but I would have been in the way, and I would have blown a lot of money, and it could have, if I wanted to make this work, I knew I wasn't gonna be the one to, I can't do everything. I can't micromanage. I need to trust other people who are experts in certain things to get it done.
Durfast, do you have any plans in the future to go and look at this? Is there any thought that you might, at some stage in the future, make a trip to Japan?
I think he's asking about a museum, right? Something about a Chikuma location to meet the owner or visit the Sony.
I would love to visit Japan at some point and say hi to the owner and thank him in person and all that stuff. But again, it's primarily a cost thing. Going to Japan is expensive and all this stuff. And I try to be what's it called? I try to be
frugal.
Yeah, I'm a pretty frugal individual, and in order to, I just bought a house. I've been about to dump a whole bunch of money into that. I need to. It's basically finance is essentially where it is.
Sure.
At some point, when I'm at a more comfortable point, when I'm not having to spend a whole bunch of money on a house and all this stuff, I would absolutely love to do it. I hope to someday.
So, I guess the natural question is, since this has been done, what's the next one? What's the next white whale on the
You're
CRT
hiding another
list?
story, Shank, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's something else. Yeah.
Where do we go from here? From the biggest?
Yeah.
From the biggest, there's always the rumored prototypes that are bigger. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, if anyone finds any, you got a lead on another noodle factory, hit me up.
Right.
I think if I just do, it would be the same video again. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'll do another CRT hunt down thing, because I can't top this one. You know what I mean? Like, in general, I don't think I'll ever tell a story this good on my channel again. And that's okay. Like,
Well, I mean, that's a fair point. I think it's not. I think that's the reason it's better, is because the story's better. It's not just some CRT video.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm honestly shocked, because I was like, holy crap! Now Shank. I mean, I thought that possibly the video about the Hot Wheels PC was kind of CRT heavy, and I was like, well, I didn't expect you really to have another CRT video coming. But it was awesome. So.
Yeah. Someone says Shank is secretly hiding a second PVM 4300. Don't tell people about that.
He's waiting for the actual American PVM 4300.
Through the power of buying a second one. So I hope more Surface. So then that'd be really cool. But I don't know what my next thing is. I haven't thought ahead. It's the kind of thing where I've been doing fun projects. I've been messing around with trying to basic like video converter circuitry and just stuff that interests me, and eventually a cool project or story will come my way and I just roll with it, because the best ones are the ones that are really exciting,
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Somebody keeps asking.
I just looked now, 2.7 million views. Holy. I watched it when it first came out, so I'm watching it 50,000 or something.
Yeah, it's doing pretty well. It was doing almost, at its peak, it did almost 500,000 a day. Like, it was burning. That was on rocket fuel, and it was exciting. I'm thrilled with how well it's done.
So somebody keeps asking about, like, I don't know, they've got us 3 or 4 times been mentioning the same question about using this.
I guess just, first of all, what the fuck is that username? But all right. Anyway, I don't know if I want to talk to that person. I don't understand what they're saying.
One person says, would collab...
How does it compare to Plasma?
Oh, I don't have a Plasma, so... I don't know. Yeah. Someone asks, would collabing with bigger YouTubers be something on your timeline? Perhaps LTT again. I'm like, sure. If any big channels like LGR or LTT or any of those kind of tech channels want to come check it out, doors open. Just reach out.
I mean, come on, guys. If he will hang out with lowly old myself and Zez, of course he'd be willing, I'm sure, to write larger.
That's what I always tell people. I'm not like a YouTuber that mods. I'm a modder that does videos. You know what I mean? I'm part of the scene. I'm active in almost every CRT Discord. I'm in a bunch of the stuff. I'm spending way more time like working on projects and nerding out about this stuff than I am like actually making videos.
I think it gets to a point where if you don't do that, then I don't know. That's what I say to myself too. Is you can't make too many videos if you want to actually stick to doing some stuff technically too. You're just like, oh, now I'm just making
a balance,
videos.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just people are surprised when they see me in like the scene, and I'm like, yeah, like I'm part of the scene. I'm working on this stuff.
Shank.
What?
Yeah. said no girl ever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm like, yeah, this, I'm like, hey, you know, that's the pickup line. I have the world's largest tube. Like that's.
Hey, okay. Let's just talk. If we could, if it's okay, let's talk about a little bit on the demographics of the watching. If I don't know if you looked at this at all from that video,
Sure.
but how. I'm not gonna lie. My vast majority of the CRT people who watch CRT videos on my network are like 97% male. I wondered what this does it tell you on that specific
what can we
video?
see?
How many more women did you get to watch this than the normal?
Yeah, sure. Let's find out. Am I pulling in the ladies?
On that video.
Let's see. Yeah, because my usual videos are very, I remember a previous girlfriend asked me, I was like, yeah, I get messages from random people all the time, like asking for help in their projects and stuff. She goes, are you interested in any of these people? And then I pulled out my phone and showed her my analytics, and she went, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see. The demographic, the audience is 94% male.
Dang.
94.5.
We still can't get past 6%, but that's okay.
Even off 2.7 million views, and we're still sitting high over 90% male viewership.
And it's tricky because YouTube presumes, it's not something you type in. They presume, it's kind of a feedback loop where they will presume what your demographic is based on what you watch, and it's a bit of a circular feedback. So there's lots of women who may be categorized as men by YouTube because of the content they watch. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't really know how they could do all that, like and determine that, and I do feel like a lot of times we are all stuck in a as much as they try to hide it from, we are in kind of a content loop where it's like you're getting this, the algorithm is kind of feeding you a wheel of stuff, and it's
the only how do I put this? The only number that's a higher percentage than what's it called? The only number that is a higher percentage than male to female like ratio is the not subscribed to subscribed on my channel. Like it's like even higher. Like 3% of the people who watch my videos are subscribed.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's all people who aren't subscribed, because I don't think I said subscribe once in that video, because it's whatever. If you want to, you will.
Yeah.
Subscriptions don't really matter. It's
right.
really
I mean, it's been a long time since subscriptions have really mattered so much on YouTube, it feels like, anyway.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, all right. Well, we've been going for an hour and a half, and I know it's only 1:45 here, but I'm sure it's pretty late for Lewis.
I'm not doing too bad.
No, you're good?
8:45
Okay.
in the evening. Yeah, we're not too bad. It's all good.
All right.
You ever pull the neck board off? No. Sorry, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, go for it.
Right. If we're wrapping up, do we want to see if anybody has more questions?
Yeah, if anybody does, they can drop it in. If there's anything, that's what I was going to kind of try to say. If you have anything that we haven't covered yet, we'll be back. Good to get back on it. Anything else? What are you going to like? Do you have the TV? Is it at your house now, or is it at like your parents' house still?
It's at my parents' place,
Okay.
and it's gonna stay there until I'm finished setting up. It's gonna stay at my parents' place until I'm finished setting up my new place I'm moving into.
Right. Okay.
So they agreed to store it for. They agreed to store it for me. They were enablers.
Do you have in your new place like a space for it that's accessible for such a large TV?
Probably. Do you know that Mitsubishi made a 60-inch CRT in the 90s but never released it? Everyone, hold on. You are citing a forum post that has been cited. Did you know that some guy on a forum said that Mitsubishi did this at some point? So, no. Oh, yeah, I'm not revealing the location of where it is.
No.
I believe that there are prototypes or trade show models or stuff built bigger than this one. But I don't know if we will ever see them. This was the largest commercially sold one. We may see more prototypes. I have seen no... I want to see some photographic evidence. I'm excited. I believe they exist, but we need more proof than just people in a forum. I believe it's possible, but...
Well, yeah. What about Don Honk was asking about CRT projectors? Have you had any interest in that route?
Oh yeah, I have one. They're really cool.
Yeah, I've got one.
Do you still have
here.
that one, Steve?
Yeah, I've never set it up and used it though.
I plan on setting one up at my new place. CRT projectors are cracked. You just need like a lot of space to set them up. And
and a good dark spot. They're usually great for like a basement if you had the right setup or a dark room.
Yeah. Have you tried light guns on the TV? Duck Hunt works. I don't have any other light guns to test, but I would presume it would, as long as the long phosphor decay wouldn't interfere with it.
Yeah, wait, Duck Hunt works? Wait, through the frame buffer?
No, through the OSSC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what? It's upscaling it so quickly that it still works.
It's line buffer, so the latency is one line, so 1/15,000th of a second or so.
Right. Okay, and that's still enough. Oh, okay, and then you add a little bit of, as you said, this not delay. Sorry, it stays on the screen. Pardon me, I'm blanking out on the word.
Yeah, but even if it didn't have the high persistence, Duck Hunt works through OSSC on a VGA CRT.
Right on.
Do you know 31 kilohertz light gun games? I don't own any, so we modded BVM is it open source? Yeah, that card is open source if you want to make one. It's not easy, but all that stuff. I used to set up 37-inch Mitsubishi CRTs for trade shows. Yeah, Mitsubishi 37-inch are awesome.
Yeah, those are more. I mean, there were a lot more of those Mitsubishis around than some of the others, and those are am I right? Were those the predecessors to the NEC stuff, or no? Like what? Were those the predecessors basically to the NEC? Or is that not?
Well, those are like oh, the Mitsubishis, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, they were both made at the same time.
Guess that's true.
Yeah, NEC made older ones too. They were like NEC and Mitsubishi were like the main competitors with each other, but they also had an agreement to like use the same tubes, so it was weird.
Mm-hmm.
Did someone see the KW-36 HD F9? Yeah, I've talked with the guy. He's really cool. That one's the Muse. That one's really cool. Really, really higher than is the phosphor decay on the 4300. Really higher than usual. Substantially higher. Yeah, way more than 1 millisecond. Way more.
And you think that was their intention to hide the interlacing effects?
Absolutely. It had to be. It's so high, it has to be intentional. This has to be a design choice.
One of those questions that if you ever get to speak to those, you can ask
I'd love
the designers.
It's, yeah, because it was. I wonder if it ever was. I wonder if it ever was 15 kilohertz, and then they're like, no, we need to put the deinterlacer on it. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder what the whole design process.
Yeah, it's just interesting to think of like when they were making that in the factory, and then like, could you imagine going into a factory and seeing like a bunch of those in the process of being made? I mean,
well, they were handmade. Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like, you probably have like 60 people working in this facility on them or something. Just crazy.
Yeah, I have mine serial number 103, and I have a service manual. Mine is KX45 serial number 103. And I see a PVM 4300 service manual amendment that references like serial numbers like 30 something or something like that. So there was, assuming they were different serial numbers, that confirms that it didn't start at 100. It started at 1. So there's probably like 150 to 200, I would guess.
Yeah. Well, it's similar to when they, like, there was a one BVM card that got reproduced by Martin that I think there were only 300 of those ever made. That was like the RGB card for the last A series BVMs.
Yeah.
It's like there's just these one things that they didn't make a whole lot of, and that's the only way we can really track it is by those service numbers.
I'd be fascinated to know as well that more of their motivations for such big custom tubes. Like, as you say, they're all handmade as much as can be done. And I wonder, is it like when a motor company like Toyota makes the Formula One? It's not like that makes a profit, but it's the research and development that goes into Formula One that trickles down to consumer models.
I suspect it's that, and it's also the, hey, Mitsubishi, shut up, we're in charge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a kind of like, you know, I joked the tube measuring contest. It was, I think this product lost, I would guess this product lost to them a crap ton of money. But the goal was to say, hey, we're in charge. We're the kings here. We can do whatever we want. We can do this because we can. We can make the bigger one. This was clearly a Halo product. Like when you open it and see how it was designed, this was they said, engineers, what's the budget? And then they went, yes, you know? So this was not designed, no holds back. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of,
especially if you we were speaking before, the bubble, it's the Japanese bubble. Not only that inspired the owner to buy this, it could also be part of the Japanese culture at the time, which inspired Sony's corporate decisions.
yeah. Okay. The dynamic convergence is nuts on this thing. So it has dynamic convergence, but it's all analog, and it has a mux that switches. So there's, okay. You know what a static convergence potentiometer is, right?
Yeah, just for horizontal static convergence.
Yeah. Like you turn a pot and it adjusts the static convergence. So the way the dynamic convergence is, imagine you have a pot for the left side of the screen and a pot for the right side of the screen. And when the beam is on the left side of the screen, it switches. There's a switch that switches to this pot, and when the beam is on the right side of the screen, it switches to this pot, and it does that. But there's like
line.
Every line it does that. But there's a crap ton of pots. It's not just two zone. So there's a mux that is multiple times per frame switching between different potentiometers to adjust the convergence depending on where the beam is on the screen.
There are some of those. That's a design. I bet that was done in the 2530s, the 30-inch one, that 2930 or whatever. Those really early PVMs, 80s, late 80s, early 90s. Those two models have their own board that is specific for convergence, similar to what you're saying. That's the only thing I can reference with this, where it has like it's like a 9-pot board layout, and each one controls a different spot on the screen for the convergence on it.
Yeah.
And that's the only time I've ever seen it was in that old, and then they got rid of it, or they don't do that, I guess, anymore. They didn't.
Yeah. But that's how the dynamic convergence was. So it's just crazy. All these potentiometers and muxes, and I'm just like, it's nuts. They're just like, when you don't have microchips, the crazy innovative stuff they did was so cool.
It looks like an old arcade boards times 20.
Yeah, I've got it's that pop out board. I think I showed it in my
Yeah.
video on my second channel where I'm showing all the pots and stuff. But
All right, guys. Well, I mean, I think that I don't know. I don't see much else coming through here.
yeah.
If there's anything else you guys want to speak to, we can, or I mean, we can easily kind of round this thing down if you want.
Yeah, we're good. Wrap it up. It's all
Yeah.
good.
All right.
Shank, thank you very much for taking the time. Thanks for getting up early.
Yeah, I know. Getting up at the crack of noon for this one. But yeah, I got nothing. I blocked out a whole bunch of time, so I'm good for you. I'm good to keep going if you guys are, or I'm good to end it now if you guys are. It's totally up to you guys.
It doesn't matter to me. I don't really have anything else to do until, I mean, for a
maybe
while.
we'll wrap it up here. I think we.
Yeah, I just,
sit
but
here tonight. We'll round it out.
yeah, I don't want to waste your time too much. What I was going to say is, for those of you that were asking about seeing additional things, I don't know when, but maybe Shank will be nice enough to let me come and give me his secret location so I can go and at least see this TV
Yeah,
in
if you're in
person
town,
for
come
you.
check it out.
Since he knows what kind of creep I am.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're.
He's a pretty big creep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've seen. You know the. If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. I've seen Party Steve.
Yeah. That's right. So, yeah, super thank you guys to everybody, especially Shank. Thanks for coming on, sharing these great stories with us. And thanks, Lewis, always for coming on and hanging out.
Thank you very much, Steve. We'll have to do another one soon. What do you say?
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks for having me, man. This is a lot of fun.
Thanks, Shank. Appreciate that, buddy. Appreciate that you chose us two losers to come and talk to about the set. Fascinating to hear some behind the scenes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, just thanks again for all the time and the awesome videos. Keep doing it. Keep it up. Thank you, everybody who came and watched the stream today. And if you're on your way out, drop a like so that algorithm gives a little boost so people come back and watch it later. And just thanks again.